and welcome back to my channel. Or just welcome if you're new here. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. Yeah. And welcome to the Nail Gun Massacre. Now, I want to preface this discussion this way. This is gutter balls. Now, I paid damn near $30 for this piece of trash. Trash according to everyone else, but not me. This movie is so bad that it is glorious. And I am one of those. Now, I will say, I don't like bad movies, I'm actually, despite, a 2200 Blu-ray DVD collection, I am actually rather stuck up in some ways. I don't like legitimately bad movies that, due to bad story, bad everything, they're just really bad movies. And I've seen bad movies that were like tens of millions of dollars in funding. And yet I've seen wonderful movies that had $50,000 worth of funding. So it's not that. It's just that I believe that you have to be very, very good to do very, very bad really well. And Gutterballs is one of them. Now, I don't have this movie to pick up and show you because it's pretty much impossible to get it unless you want to pay $100 for a used DVD. It's never gotten a legit, real good release, which I hope that they will change that. Hello, I paid $30 for this shit. You know what I'm saying? All right, so we are now going to talk about the Nail Gun Massacre. The Nail Gun Massacre was released in 1985. It was directed by Beau Leland and Terry Lofton. It was written by Terry Lofton, who never did anything else, it seems. And it stars Rocky Patterson, Ron Queen, and Beau Leland. And it has a majestic 3.7 on International Movie Database, whereas I gave it an 8.5. Because, people, get a sense of humor, okay? Just get a sense of humor, alright? It's okay. So I do like intentionally ridiculous, over the top, too bad, so bad, amazingly bad that it's wonderful movies. And the Nail Gun Massacre is one of those. It checks all the boxes for me. And I will beg whoever has the rights to it at the end of this, just like I will right now, please approach one of those boutiques, preferably Arrow or Scream. Try to stay away from Vinegar Syndrome and shit like that. I'm not paying $90 for it now, but, Arrow and Scream, they'll pop it out for a good $15.99, $20. I'll do that. So, The Nail Gun Massacre was released in 1985, like I said. We opened the movie in a construction site where a lady who we later learn is named Linda is being, let's just say, it's like the essay scene from I Spit on Your Grave without any of the real violence and nudity. Which can, at the beginning, make you think, but I thought this was a video nasty kind of thing. It is. I guess they just didn't want to show that particular kind of nudity and violence. So, although the scene is violent and all, it doesn't really show anything, and it's like a 0.2 compared to the 10.8 of of the scene from I Spit on Your Grave. However, that quickly changes later in the movie. Like I said, I think maybe he just didn't want to show that kind of nudity and violence, or he didn't want to show nudity and violence in that particular situation. So he got the point across, and then we move on to 6 months later in this ramshackle shack where we are introduced to a hilariously Deliverance-looking woman with a baby out, with a little toddler out by the clothesline, and we are introduced to Leroy. Because, of course, his name is Leroy. And he's getting up and he's screaming, come fix me some breakfast, woman, and, all the stuff that you would expect Leroy to say. And we are then introduced to the killer, who comes dangerously close to the woman and the baby, but then kind of scoots around to the back, because obviously that is not their target. They come in to this Leroy, and promptly, he does, what you doing, boy, and stuff like that, where he promptly has his hand nailed to his forehead, by a nail gun. Now, let's talk about the killer. The killer wears a complete camouflage outfit from finger to toes, with a big giant air tank on the back, leading to a pressurized nail gun. Now, this isn't your average 3.5-inch nail gun. This is like a fucking 38 penny, 40 penny nail gun. Okay? This bitch shoots nails. Now, at first, I didn't believe that. I had to actually look it up on Google. I'm like, God, It's like I know 8 penny nails, 10 penny nails. But what the hell penny is those nails, And it's like, oh, okay. They go up to like 36 penny, 40 penny. We're talking like 5.5, 6 inches long. 6 1/4 inch, something like that. Well, so this is kind of explains why. Of course, it was 1985. I don't know if they had like battery operated nail guns. In any event, we're getting off track. They have a motorcycle helmet on that is like junky and beat up with like masking tape around it, with the eyes. It's okay. And there's this like voice modulator. So he talks like this. And he says these ridiculous one-liners, and stuff like that to him. So he like blows him full of holes. And then we, this, like I said, 6 months later after this sexual assault. So kills him with the nail gun, forehead to the head. We then see a couple making out. Marty? Is that his name? Mark. Okay. So in this bedroom, we see this couple making out, where you straight guys will get these any question you have about nudity will be solved at that point, because that was some gratuitous boobs. You understand what I'm saying? And so you have to remember, when I'm watching this, we're checking off boxes, and we're waiting to see if other boxes will be checked. So, that, of course, has gotten in the, I don't know. But I'm still already fascinated with the with the quality of this movie. Of course, looks like it was filmed with a handheld videotape. Yeah. So we get to see stupid Mark, who is actually gorgeous, but we only get to see him in his boxers. We get to see his girlfriend, of course, and it's like, Jesus Christ, okay. And he leaves. She wants to make out. She wants, they're lonely. Don't you want to stay and play with them? They're lonely. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm going to like, what the fuck am I watching? And he's like, no, honey, I've got to go and cut firewood. So he goes and he gets in his truck and he picks up a friend and they go out to the woods. And the guy that's with him is like, oh man, I can see why you can't get anyone to come cut wood with you. What do you want to come on this land for? And this is when we first start learning about the land where Leroy was killed is now like a Bermuda Triangle zone to everyone in the area. So he's like, oh, ain't nobody going to bother us and stuff like that. So they go out there and they do their very silly dialogue when one of them has to take a piss. So he's like, I've got to go over here and take a piss. So he goes over there, and it's a fucking hilarious scene. He goes over there, and he's taking a leak when the killer walks up behind him. Now, by this time, I've already settled, right? The killer is Linda. You know what I mean? I'm like, she's got lady hips, you know? That was my logic. She's not very, she's not super tall. Looks like a woman. She's got lady hips. I'm like, well, it's Linda, of course. I mean, come on. So anyway, he's doing that, and she creeps up behind him. I'm going to accidentally say she the whole time now. The killer creeps up behind him, and he's in the middle of pissing, right? And so he turns around, and he like pisses all over the killer's legs. And the killer looks at him, and here's a little taste. The killer looks up at him and is like, well, now you've really pissed me off. And I'm like, oh. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, though, when he first turns around and pisses him, he's holding his dick. So you see this guy's dick. Embarrassingly, in my opinion, you see this guy's dick. So right then we're like, okay, those massive gratuitous boob shots earlier is obviously not what the director is going to limit this movie to, I guess, right? So the killer like fires him up, and he falls down on the ground, and his pants are down because they were unzipped and everything. So his pants have come down even further, and he's sitting there in his underwear. It shoots him right in the dick. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's gotta hurt. Now, she then goes and kills the other guy, who is using a chainsaw at the time. Did I call her she again? The killer goes and kills the other guy. He's using a chainsaw. Now, when it lights him up, I'm going to just call it it. When it lights him up, he cuts his own hand off with the chainsaw. So we're getting some good, like, okay, sure it was made for $5, but this is looking alright. I mean, it's like, this is kind of cool. Really good hand prosthetic, too, because I kept looking at it, like, I even, like, freeze-framed it, like, that don't even look fake. I don't know. And of course, this movie has no CGI. It's all, of course, practical. And I'm like, that is a really good hand. And I swear I see it move. Like the little nerve things. I swear I saw it move. It was really good effect. So, I like that. So now we have these two dead guys. And everyone's afraid of the area. Now, right before they were killed, we saw this really ugly hearse. Like this person is driving a hearse. The killer drives a hearse. And it's a really ugly color. It's not pink. It's not plum or mauve or anything like that. It just looks like a really dingy beige Pepto-Bismol. It's really, but it's a hearse. So, there's that. Cut hands off with. Okay, now we have the sheriff arrives. This is the most hilarious caricature of Buford T. Pusser from Walking Tall. The original. I'm not talking about that absolute whatever that rock person, that shitty remake, whatever that was. I don't know. I'm talking about the original Buford Pusser in Walking Tall. We basically have him with a stupid beard. I've never seen a sheriff wearing jeans that tight, I will say that. But, you know, the sheriff shows up and he's like, all you have to do is look at my face to know the dialogue. You know what I mean? So the sheriff arrives, and I put Walking Tall caricature because he totally is with his cowboy hat and stuff like that. We are then, while he's there, he calls in, wants the doc to come out. And we then flash to the grocery store scene. Now, I absolutely love this scene because I swear my granddad used to take me to little country stores like this. But what is most interesting about it is that you can tell that the old lady behind the cash register, this is really her store. You can tell about it. I mean, it literally looks like this director brought his 3 actors and stopped at a grocery store and said, look, I'll give you $50, okay? I just want you to ring them up. I want you to say these 3 lines, and then, which she flubs one of them, and then let them do their lines and we'll go. And you've just got $50. You can tell that that's kind of what went on, and it is absolutely, cute. It is just, I knew the word last night. I can't think of it though. But, yeah, it's that. So you have this old granny, she's not super old. She was about 60. And she's like 159, and you see this really cute redneck guy, like, sitting there like this, watching her ring it up. And then, like, out of the blue, right? I'm talking totally out of the blue. Well, 159, 189, you know what? Don't you miss the times when you could sit out on the front porch without worrying about the mosquitoes and the killers? And the boy looks at her like, and I was like, that is ridiculous. That is so cool, right? So she says these couple of lines, and then she says something about, yeah, it used to just be wild butterflies. So she flubbed that line. So she only nailed like 2 of the 3 lines. 2 of the 3 lines that she had, but she recovered well. Then we have these 3 people. We have these really 2 cute guys, and we have this girl who is like doing an absolutely fantastic impression of Victoria Principal in Earthquake. I'm talking a nice round Jufro. Okay, perfect Jufro. If you don't know what a Jufro is, it's white people wearing afros. That really intense, that super tight curly afro. And Jewish people can grow them like that. But, a person like me, I'd have to get a perm from hell and fry my hair to get it to do it. But in any event, she's got this, a little smaller version of Victoria Principal's Jufro in Earthquake. So they do their little lines. Granny is like, that'll be 1950. And neither of the guys have it. So I have to bail you guys out again. So that's how we're introduced to them. Now, we discover that what has happened is that they are going to live in Leroy's house, the Old Bailey property. Miss Leroy is letting them stay in Leroy's house where he was murdered, to fix it up. You can stay here for free if you fix it up. So once again, we have a construction connection. So we have the grocery store with the guy, the grocery store scene with the girl and the 2 guys. They've been offered to live in the murder house. The old lady tells them the story, so she's like Friday the 13th, Crazy Ralph. She's like that. She tells them, but she doesn't act that crazy, but she tells them about the killer land, that's where the guy was. So they have their warning, okay? Now, Doc arrives back at the scene where the sheriff had found those two bodies, right? I've never seen a doctor like this. The dude, well, first of all, he dresses like a porn stud. It's a doctor. And he's like, denim jacket and looks like totally 1985 metalhead or something. I think he's wearing like a Who shirt or something like that. And he's got these tight jeans. That's another thing I'll say about this movie. They didn't even afford a wardrobe. They just went and got denim colored paint and painted all the guys' asses with it. That's how tight the jeans are in this movie. And it doesn't take you long before you're going, what did they do? They bought all of the guys' clothes from the little boy store? What? I mean, didn't anybody have jeans that fit? I mean, I don't see how they got in or out of those things. Not that I'm complaining. But, so the doctor arrives looking like this pimp porn star. Loverboy. The rock group Loverboy from the 80s. Just, it's that. He looks like he's the lead singer of the Loverboys. Of Loverboy. So that's a little shock. And it's intentional because the sheriff even says so. Like when he climbs out the car, the sheriff is like, dude, when are you ever going to start dressing like a doctor? And he's like, oh, I don't like wearing white. So he likes his leather jackets and his rock shirts and his super tight jeans. So they go out there and they look at the bodies. I'm going to get lost in my notes because you see I'm excited about this movie. So they talk about the murders on the land. When the doc arrives, they go out there and look at it. Now we see the hitchhiker scene. We see the hearse driving down the road, and there's this cute hitchhiker guy standing on the side of the road, and he tries to hitch a ride. Well, the hearse doesn't stop, which he should have been thankful for. But instead, he shoots a bird at the hearse, which prompts them to stop. Now, he looks at the camera and is like, oh, so that's how you get a ride. I'm like, yeah, probably not. That's probably not why they've stopped. He goes up to the window where, of course, the killer nails him. How you could drive with an air tank on your back, I don't know. But, so the killer gets out, comes around. He's like got nails all in his abdomen. And he's laying there on the ground, and he starts like pleading for his life and stuff like that, doing this. Well, the nailer like nails his hands to the road in a prayer position. So I'm like, well, that's gotta suck. Then he gets up, of course it's about as useful. That prayer didn't work, did it? So he's left there. The hearse drives on. Now, let's catch up here. So, nails him to the road. We then get the sheriff and Doc called to town. They're called to town, like the middle of town, by this old, decrepit redneck guy, that you would imagine from Deliverance. And he's standing there with his little hat and he's chewing tobacco and stuff like that. And he's like, what happened to her? Because it's like a young, like a teenage hitchhike girl. And she looks like she has been hit with like 25 nails. They are like everywhere on her. So the sheriff and the doc are looking at it, and they're like, wow, geez, somebody wanted her dead. Then they get a phone call on the radio to dispatch because a trucker has found the hitchhiker on the road. So the sheriff is like, we got to go. So the old man, he's like, all you like to do is drive around in that car, you asshole. What are you going to do? Would you move this? And the sheriff, like, climbing into the car, he's like, it's all right. She'll be okay. She ain't going nowhere. We'll send somebody around to pick her up in a little bit. And you're like, oh. And the old man is like, don't leave this in beside my store. that was wrong to leave that dead girl sitting there with 25 bullets, I mean, nails sticking out of her. But they got to go look at this hitchhiker. So they get there and they talk to the trucker who found the hitchhiker, and he tells them the trio is now at the house that night, where the killer is indeed like outside, like stalking them and making noise and shit. So, you hear them talking like, oh my gosh, because they've now been told, the old lady at the grocery store told them. So now they know why they are being allowed to stay in this house for free. And, yeah, so making sure my mic was on, because we're not gonna have what happened last time happen again. So they're of course talking about it now, like, oh well, I see why we're here. I don't know, it's spooky noises outside. We're way out in the middle of nowhere. This isn't cool, and so they have this little conversation about Leroy being killed there. And then the next day, those two boys go to pick up supplies because, Miss Bailey had said, just charge it to me, get what you need to fix up the place. So they go to this construction supply place where we actually meet Linda. This is how we know that's the girl that was assaulted at the beginning of the movie. So she comes out. She is an absolute total bitch. They kind of laugh at her because she's such a bitch. I mean, literally, they didn't do nothing but forget their receipt. And she comes out ripping them entirely new assholes because they forgot their receipt. Like, who gives a fuck? So they kind of make fun of her, like, over-the-top behavior. And I, of course, am like, that's the murderer right there. So they leave. Yes, I'm wearing my Halloween socks to go with my Halloween shirt. Michael Myers, The Curse of Michael Myers, my favorite sequel after 1 and 2 of Halloween. There you go, little info. So, where was I? Oh. So, they leave after being bitched out by Linda, and then we see a truck and a bike. A bike and a biker pull up. And they want to know if there's any jobs around. So it's two couples. And again, the wardrobe is fantastic in this movie. So they're like, no, we don't have any openings. But you can go, there is a couple guys doing construction at Old Lady Bailey's land. So you can go out there and maybe they can use the help, Matter of fact, they were just here picking up some stuff. So this perfectly nice couples, they're two nice couples. There's nothing wrong with them other than being idiots like everybody else in this movie. But they go out there. They're like, okay, we'll go check that. See you later. And then you see Bubba. Bubba is Linda's brother. And he's like, yeah, whatever. So he gives them the, the shitty, the shit eye, the evil eye. And they take off and they go to this land. So they go back there. They tell them to go check the Bailey house. Bubba then tells Linda, because she's like, who was that? So Bubba tells Linda who they were. They were some guys and, two couples looking for work. And that he sent them out there to the Bailey property. And the couples arrive, but no one's home because, they hadn't come back from what they were doing. So there's nobody there. So they decide to sit down and have a picnic. The picnic. They brought this little cooler. It's like one of those little bitty coolers, for 4 people. So they lay out the little blanket and they're going to have a picnic. This picnic consisted of a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper and 2 packs of Ritz crackers. And I'm like, I was like, okay. Man, I'd hate to see what the catering budget was for this movie. No sandwiches, no bread, no wieners, no hot dogs, no nothing. Just a 6-pack. It's like they stopped at that grocery store before they filmed the scene. Give me a 6-pack of Dr. Pepper and a pack of Ritz crackers because we got a picnic scene to do. It was fucking hilarious. I don't know why. It just was. So they're sitting there eating their, drinking their Dr. Pepper and eating Ritz crackers, when two of them decide they want to go screw in the woods. So these two stay. The other two go into the woods. Now, I am really not sure if I have seen a scene more explicit since Mickey Rourke and Lisa Bonet in Angel Heart. If you know that movie, that sex scene in Angel Heart is extremely explicit. I was very shocked. I mean, granted, I had seen boobs everywhere. I had seen the guy's penis at, and when he got killed in the woods. But, okay, no, the gloves are off. So we see the killer creeping up through some bushes, and there we see that couple from the rear. The girl's up against a tree, and the guy is doing like some kind of Aladdin dance. I mean, they are screw in, right? And the movements that he's making, Tony Basil couldn't have choreographed it any better. It looked like some kind of ballet going on. And I'm just like sitting there going, that's a really nice ass. But what the hell are you doing? I mean, And then you hear the girl, she says something like, the bark is scratching me. And he was like, well, you're the one who didn't want to lay in the ant bed. All while they're continuing to go at it like a porn movie. And I thought to myself, well, she's got a point. I would rather be up against bark than laying in an ant bed, but at the same time, I also kind of thought, why don't you just go and lay over there instead of laying on the ant bed? I mean, there are choices. You are in the wide open woods. But those are the kind of philosophical arguments that you're really not supposed to have with yourself in movies like this. You understand? Movie magic, you just let it go. So let's do that. So while they're screwing, in an extremely explicit scene, he gets shot in the head by the nailer. And it's like a praying mantis with his head cut off. He continues to, while he's slowly, she's like, what's wrong with you? Because he's like sliding down her front. And I guess he was still moving, if you know what I mean. But he's got this big giant nail sticking out of his head. So fap a couple of more times. Then she realizes what's going on. She screams, fap, she's dead too. He's laying there buck naked, penis and all. Now he's on his back. And she falls across him, showing her in full frontal nudity as well. And you're like, okay. Equal nudity. Check. No one-sided in this film. You know what I'm saying? I would like to thank the director for that right now at this moment. If we could take a moment of silence for equal nudity. Now, continuing on. So, we then, the two guys finally show back up, right? The two guys that are staying at Leroy's house. They show back up, and right about that time, though, remember the other couple enjoying their Dr. Pepper and Ritz crackers. She starts getting freaked because they haven't come back. He basically tells her they went to screw because there's no time limit. Oh no, something has happened to him, I just know it. So his dumb ass goes out there looking for him, where the killer literally nails him to a tree. Makes him put his arms around the tree and nails it to him and kills him. Or nails it to him and then kills him. So she's freaking out. They should have killed her because she's so annoying. But she's freaking out. Those two guys show up. She's having a literal panic attack. Oh, I just know people, they're dead. They're all dead out there. The guys try to calm her down. The one guy, he tries to calm her down. They end up taking her in the house. The girl's like, what's going on? And it's like, I don't know. She says her friends are out there in the woods. Next thing you know, the sheriff and the doc are showing up, and the two guys are showing them. Interestingly enough, our perfect victims in Leroy's house, they lived through this movie, which I thought was kind of interesting. So they go out there and show the sheriff and the doc the bodies. Lots of funny comments are made. And you keep hearing, I thought that it was poor production, because I kept hearing gunshots, or what sounded like gunshots. I mean, like, you're trying to have movie dialogue, and I was actually laughing about that at first, because I was like, they're out in the woods in the South, obviously, somewhere, and somebody's shooting fire, and they're continuing to shoot, despite the fact that somebody over the hill is, because nobody mentions it. You see what I'm saying? Nobody mentions the fact that every 75 seconds you hear a big fire, a gunshot. So at first I thought that their production, that the director was probably sitting behind the camera going, go kill them or shut them up or something. I'm trying to film a movie over here. But, so that's what I'm kind of thinking is going on, because nobody's mentioning these gunshots. Finally, though, back at the house, one of the guys is like, I wish them people would stop shooting. And I'm like, is that ad-libbed, or was that really part of it? Now, we find out that it actually was. See, all those gunshots were not gunshots. They were nail gunshots. Over there is a construction site. The construction site where it all happened. And you see these two absolute idiots who are running around with nail guns playing war. They're actually literally playing Call of Duty. With nail guns. Yeah. That could dry out. So, that's really, the funny thing about this scene is, besides that stupidity, is that one of the guys, the other guy, he's up there, he's went into the house, and this other guy's like walking across, and he steps on a lawn claw, a rake. So he steps on the rake, and the rake is, so the handle comes up. He steps on the rake, the handle comes up, hits him right in the nuts. It is fucking hilarious. They played it perfectly. I think I rewound it like a couple of times, like going, is he hitting the mark? I mean, like, I want to see if is he a good enough actor not to show him looking for the correct mark to make that thing come up and hit him in the nuts. He did a pretty good job, because I couldn't really tell him, like, searching, like, I need to walk right there and step and get it to pop up and hit me in the nuts. So he actually did a pretty good job. That was funny as fuck. The other guy came down, and I'm like, what's he going to do? Rub it for him? I mean, what can you do in a situation like that? I'm just like, sorry. But they end up, like, going inside. Well, one of them limped inside, if you know what I mean. And, of course, the killer shows up, says all these ridiculous one-liners, kills them pretty ugly. Pretty good. I actually think the nail stuff was pretty good. Now, granted, I saw somewhere someone complain, I think it was on a review, someone was complaining about how you never saw the nail come out of the gun. Duh, you idiot. Yeah, but they were literally complaining. It's like you didn't see the nail come out of the gun. That was like, you would see the gun, and then you would, like, hear the pop, and then it would have a big nail sticking out of somebody's head. Exactly the way do you think, how the fuck do you think that they were going to accomplish that in a $5.95 movie? You know what I'm saying? I don't even think they would do that in a big budget movie. What are you going to do? Show someone shoot someone with a nail gun? That's not exactly something that practical effects are going to get away with. So I thought the nail stuff was really good. And as a matter of fact, he did do a lot of really good camera work to where you would see the nail gun from behind, and the edits were so fast that it really did look like, there was a nail not there, now there is a nail there, and blood's everywhere. So I think he did a great job with the nails, because that's kind of a gross way to die, getting shot in the head with nails and stuff. So I think he did really good with that. And I did laugh at the fact that when they were playing Call of Duty, you never saw nails come out of the gun. Well, safety. Like I said, I don't really think those two idiots should have been actually shooting nails at each other. That would have definitely... Isn't someone in a lot of trouble right now for an on-set accident like that? Let's not forget Twilight Zone, the movie. Is that it? Yeah. The helicopter cutting them two kids and that guy up, Vic Morrow. I mean, come on, let's have a little bit of safety. I would not be on set with those two motherfuckers shooting nail guns. That's all I gotta say. Let's give a little leeway here and some common sense, okay? So, we are then, after those two guys are killed, we are introduced to a totally random new couple. It's a really cute blonde guy and the typical Playboy bunny blonde chick. And they are saying the stupidest dialogue, but it's understandable. Now, I'm not even sure what it was supposed to mean. They went to like an IHOP kind of place, Sonic kind of place where from like the 50s where they come out and bring you your food and the little tray on your side of your car. So, he takes her to that. There's a lot of really silly dialogue, but it's funny. He's obviously dated one of the waitresses before who's like bends his Ariel. Now, but this is where it's sort of the build up to the real funny. I don't know what the fuck he's driving, okay? But this is a little bitty car, okay? I kept saying like a Mazda midget. It's a cute little tiny sports car, and it's a convertible, and it's got these really square edges, So it's like it definitely, the word that what came to my mind was a Mazda midget, but I'm sure I don't know cars, so I don't know what it was, but that's what came to my mind. Anyway, this car is tiny. It is a little car. I think it might be 5 feet across, 4.5, 5 feet across. So it's this little bitty tiny sports car convertible. Now, later on, they stop on the side of the road, and they're just going to screw on the side of the road. There's no room in this car. I don't even think the thing had a back seat. Did it have a back seat? It had to have a back seat, but I don't think you could even put your shoes back there. But the point is, this car is so tiny that for 5 minutes straight, you watch these two people try to find some way to screw in the front seat of this little tiny car. I literally yelled at the screen, just fuck on the hood. She's trying to take his clothes off. He's trying to take her clothes off. There is no room in this car. And it's so intentional because I think at least one time you saw both of them crack. Like this scene where she's trying to get his pants off. You actually see her crack. She's just like starts laughing. And you see him do the same thing, Finally, after 5 minutes of this absolute ridiculous hilariousness of them trying to get naked in that car with no room whatsoever, he finally goes, why don't we just get on the hood where we can fly? And I'm like, you couldn't figure those dimensions out 5 minutes ago? Then we wouldn't have had that 5 minute scene of them playing Twister in the front seat of a shoebox, because that's what that car was like. So they finally get out on the bonnet of the car, and they start going at it. Okay, the killer walks up behind him. He's banging away. The killer walks up behind him, like with a nail gun. I'm using my vape as a nail gun. So he walks up behind him, and he's just standing there. I mean, the killer is like 8 inches from the dude's ass going up and down. And he's like, he just walks up to him and he just like politely taps him on the shoulder. And then it switches and you see from the front, you know. So the killer's behind him and he's just like taps him on the shoulder. No response. Taps him on the shoulder again and you're like, the fuck? And then finally the guy is like, huh? What? And he's like, get up, freeze, stop right now. You know, freeze. And the guy turns around. She jumps up, boobs flying everywhere. He jumps up. He's sitting there. They're both sitting there looking at this killer. And the killer is like, put your clothes back on. And the first thing that the guy says is like, are you a cop? I face palmed. He's wearing a air tank on his back in full camo with a biker helmet covered in masking tape with a fucking nail gun in his hand, and the guy says, are you a cop? Now, this is 1985. Now, granted, today, 2023, yes, cops are dressed like fucking mercenary terrorists from Afghanistan is what cops dress like today. It's ridiculous. But this is 1985. And even still, I've never seen a cop with an air tank and a nail gun. So you get my point of how funny that scene was. So she like puts her bra back together, if you could call it that. I was like, what is that she's wearing? It's see-through. Why even bother to wear a bra? Right? It's like beige see-through. Like when she put it on, it just looked like she was putting on a transparent tissue. I thought, why would a girl wear a bra like that? Why not just not wear a bra? I mean, anyway, that's just, I don't know what to say. So she gets back in the car. The gunner kills his ass. She screams, comes running back out, and of course somehow her bra has come undone, so she comes running with tits a-flopping and jumps up on the hood. You killed him, you killed him. Yeah, and then he kills her. So we now have these two people dead in a fucking hilarious scene. We finally, what did I say? Oh, finally got on the bonnet and both were killed. Now we see a couple, or what you think is a couple. It turns out it's a daughter and her dad. And they are in a house, and he's like, I'm going to go check the grill. It's a fancy house. They got a pool. So he's going to go out and check the grill and tells her, she says, okay, Dad, I'll get my suit on and I'll join you, So he goes out there and he's checking the grill and he walks by the pool. And when he walks by the pool, the killer comes up out of the water like fucking Rambo. Okay? That was hilarious. It's like, first of all, it's a pool, not a swamp. And if I walked by a pool with somebody standing on the bottom ready to jump up and shoot me, I would see them. It's not like this is a swamp with green water. But in any event, he comes up like the Terminator out of the water water everywhere. Fills him full of nails, whom he falls around on the grill, which I guess was supposed to be a pig grill commentary. Because he's sitting there getting fried on the grill. The gunner's gone. The girl comes out. Her daddy's cooking on the grill. The doc and the sheriff show up. They're questioning, like, what the fuck? Turns out this is the guy that owns that construction company where Linda works. So the cop and the dog are like getting their thinking caps on, and they're like, it seems like a whole lot of these victims are associated with this construction company. I wonder what that could be. So the sheriff gets a big light bulb over his head, and it's like, Linda, 6 months ago, Leroy was killed. Right before that, she accused damn near half the employees of that construction company of raping her. And now, like a whole shitload of them are dead. I think there may be a connection. Now, the doctor, though, he's like, no, I know her. I treated her after that incident. She's fine. She's not crazy. That's not true. So he's like, well, you really need to think about it. We then get to see another 2 random victims, because this movie is full of just like random people that just show up and get killed. 2 girls are like walking down the road, and they like, I don't know if they're like selling something or whatever, but they go up to this house. Now, this was an interesting scene, because there is a shot where they walk out of the woods by this garage to the door. The killer is standing right there in full view, but because it's in full camo, it blends in with the trees behind it. And that actually like freaked me out, because the girls walked like within that far of the killer standing there, and I didn't even see it either until he moved. And then I'm like, oh shit, rewind. That was good. I had no reason to be paying attention to the big tit chicks, so it wasn't that. You know what I mean? I wasn't paying attention to them for any particular reason. But I did not see him standing there. He blended right in with the trees in the background. That was really good cinematography for a videotape in a $5.95 movie. So he, of course, kills them, so they're dead in ugly fashion. Yeah, 2 random girls on the land gets killed ugly. The doc actually goes to Linda now, and he tells her what the sheriff suspects, and that he will be coming after her. And he wants to know, where's Bubba? And she says, he's off driving that stupid hearse of his. And I'm like, oh, wait a second. A $5.95 movie is not supposed to have a good twist like this. No. The killer's got lady hips, okay? It's Linda. You know it's Linda. So then you realize, though, that Linda's there at the construction site talking to the doctor when those 2 girls are killed. It's not Linda. And I'm like, no fucking way, man. Did you really? It can't be Bubba. Unless Bubba's got lady hips. Maybe I just am misjudging him for lady hips. I don't know. So they take off looking for Bubba. They do find him. He makes a U-turn, and there's this big car chase, right? Where they end up at like the sand pits or something, you know, like the gravel pits. And he wrecks the hearse, and he gets out in the killer outfit. And he like tries to climb to the top of a crane, and the doctor gets to him, where he then falls and plummets to his death. Sheriff arrives about now too. So they run over there. Linda's freaking out. They take off the helmet. It's fucking Bubba. It's been Bubba the whole time. And I was like, dude. I was too busy paying attention to all the stupid shit that I didn't even really pay attention to the actual plot of the movie. And that was really cool. So, Bubba's dead. She's freaking out. The sheriff is like, well, it's all been solved. And then you see they're playing this like elevator music, like not really elevator music, but the kind of music that you would hear in like a 1960s lounge, you know, that kind of contemporary jazzy almost elevator music. And the doc and Linda go walking off into the sunset. And then they grab each other's hands. They start holding hands. And you hear, all of a sudden, that elevator music is broken up by this dun dun dun. And then it goes back to the elevator music. And it did that right when they held hands in the sunset. And then the movie ended. And you're like, ooh! You're a movie that was made for $10 and some change, and you left me with questions? You fooled me with a twist? Maybe it was that guy's ass dance that just had me mesmerized for the whole movie, and I couldn't figure out what was really going on. That was good. And that is the Nail Gun Massacre from 1985. Now, I will once again beg you, Terry Lofton, are you still alive? He's probably not. Oh, shit. He died in 2011. He died at the age of 48. He only made one movie. And a documentary about making this movie. Literally. The Nail Gun Massacre. And Nailed. Oh, it says he did another movie called Flesh Wounds. 7 Stories of the Saw. Well, that sucks. So he only made 2 movies. Okay. Somebody's got to own the rights to this film. Please go talk to Scream or Arrow and do a release. I'll pay you $25 just like that. This movie was so much fun. You know what I'm saying? Is it atrocious acting? For the most part. You know, does it have way too many titties for my comfort level? Yeah. Does it have really cute guys though and some really good equal butt shot nudity? Yes. So I'm okay. You have yours, I got mine. So the twist got me. It won't get you because you just heard it. But the twist got me. I'm still left with, did Linda do some and Bubba? Because she didn't seem to know anything about it. Is that little dun-dun-dun when they held hands, was that just nothing? Or does it mean the Doctor and Linda had something to do with all of this? Maybe it was like group revenge. But then why would they have killed, you see, this is what I'm saying. Why would they have killed the other people? Because there was a lot of people that were killed that had absolutely nothing to do with any of this. The 2 couples, you know, 3 of them were killed. They had nothing to do with any of this. They were just driving through town last for a job. Interestingly enough, though, the 3 people that were staying on the Bailey land, nothing happened to them. They lived through the movie, so that was interesting. who in the fuck was the girl killed in the middle of town? Just a hitchhiking girl, and she filled her full of, nails. Well, what's up with that? Or he filled her full of nails. So yeah, there was a lot of killing. Only some of whom were part of. I mean, there was only like 7 people that took part in the gang assault. Yet there was like what, 14 people killed in this movie? What's the kill count? I don't know. I'd have to sit and think about it, and that would make this video a lot longer than it already is. So, I absolutely love the Nail Gun Massacre. It ranks right up there with Gutterballs. I might even like it better than Gutterballs. Like I said, I'm not stuck up when it comes to this kind of bad. This kind of bad was intentional. He had some really good ideas. That fumbling in the car was hilarious. Some of the one-liners were so cheesy that I could literally hear cows mooing afterwards. It was a really funny movie. I loved the wardrobe. It was so 80s. I loved the cast. They were perfect. I just think the movie was really, really great. This is the kind of bad that I like. And you can give it a 3.7 on International Movie Database all you want to. It just shows you how you cannot trust sites like that. So, if you are into hilariously bad in a good way, like Gutterballs, you have to get the Nail Gun Massacre. Now, you may be going, well, I thought you said you wouldn't pay for it. I didn't. I went and found a high-def 1080p rip. I don't know what they ripped it from. I think there was a Blu-ray. Maybe it was a foreign Blu-ray. But it's a HD rip, and I downloaded it. How did I find out about it? I found this channel called 80s Slashers, and they have this really cool series where they go through every year from 1980, and you can find it by looking for like a video like The Year in Slashers 1980, all trailers, and it just shows you every trailer of every slasher that was released in 1980, and this was on the 1985 one, and I'm like, ooh, that looks interesting, and then I ended up like going to eBay. It's not available unless you want to pay $100 for a used DVD from Germany. And so I went to email. I looked and I found it, a high def version, and I downloaded the file. And now it sits with Barbarian and Prey because they won't release them on Blu-ray either. So you can find it. I don't know if anybody's streaming it because I don't pay attention to any of that shit. If you're into that shit, go find it yourself. I ain't going to tell you where to find it because I don't go to those places. So if you haven't seen this, you really should. If you're a fan of stuff like Gutterballs, you should really see this movie. You have to see it to believe it. I think that's what one of the reviews says on International Movie. It says has to be seen to believe. Has to be seen to be believed. Yeah, it does. I absolutely love it. I would do anything to get a nice physical copy of this movie. You can send it to me out there if you got it. I absolutely love the Nail Gun Massacre, and I will see you in the next thing I do. This has been very long, but if you've been around my channel, you know that when I get a hold of something that really excites me for whatever stupid reason excites me, I will talk my ass off about it. The Nail Gun Massacre, 1985. Great kills. Great concept. Very cheap budget. But great concept. Good nudity. Good fun. Everything about it was just cool. I'd love to see that's what I'm saying. They could do a remake, but would you keep the fun? Would you keep that nudity? Would you keep the fun? Or would you fuck it up like so many of you like to do when you remake a good, out-of-the-way movie like this? But I would really love to have this on physical. And I will see you in the next thing that I do. Keep rocking, keep screaming, but only when appropriate. Wait, what was my old tagline? Keep rocking very, very hard. Keep screaming, but only when appropriate. Which these days is every fucking day you get up. And I will see you later. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. Always remember, never forget, you are a very, very special person. And I will see you in the next thing I do, which I promise will not be over an hour long. I just really love this movie. Nail Gun Massacre rules. Gutterballs rules. I love cheap bad. Terry Lofton, you could have done so much more. I'm so sorry that you died at such a young age. Love you, miss you. Bye-bye. Whoever's got the rights, call Scream immediately. Or who did this? MVD? Call MVD. Call Scream. Call Arrow. Get this movie out where people can see it. Love you. Miss you. Bye-bye.